snugglers. We're so happy you're here today and just wishing you a day full of peace and gratitude and maybe some sprinkles of joy. I got on a reoccurring guest, which I'm so excited. So just give yourself a little introduction again.
Yes. Hi. Oh my gosh. Anytime that I get to do anything with you, I'm just like the most jazzed possible. But my name is Jazmin Kylene. I'm a spiritual counselor and a journalist and someone who is forever 14 and doing her best. And yeah, I'm just so excited to literally, it's so funny because we hopped on and we're like, what are we talking about? And I feel like that's the beauty of life. It's just moving so fluidly.
Yeah,
So
it's like, oh, I'm so grateful you're here too. And I just love that those people that you can just have conversations with, I mean, this whole podcast isn't structured anyways, and I think that's the best because conversations feel good when they're fluid.
Yes, I feel like anytime I interact with something that's like too structured or rigid, I find that like I feel the need to stretch and expand beyond it. And like sometimes I'll like feature on something where like they'll send the questions beforehand or like it's something that's, and I'm like, now we're thinking too much and I kind of want to move intuitively. So I'm just grateful for you, queen.
Yay. And I do want to talk about how I recently saw you posting all these spiritual meanings of symbols and animals and the importance of that and what that means.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to talk about it. So on my Instagram, I typically will post like every now and then just a question and kind of see how people respond to it. And it's typically a question reflective of like where I'm at in life. And right now I'm always working with animals and like animal totems, spirit animals and stuff. And like spiders have been very, very largely symbolic recently. And so I kind of wanted just to see where everyone else was at in terms of like what animals have been showing up, like what's been symbolic and synchronistic. And it opened up a really large conversation about like, what does it mean to move through life with awareness, So yeah, I figured that'd be a beautiful thing for us to dissect a little bit.
Please tell me more about spiders. I've always been so afraid of them. And my dad I think I was in elementary school. It was just me and my dad. And he's like, your science fair project is going to be on spiders, so you stop being afraid. And I was like, no. And then we did it and it didn't work. I'm still afraid of them after. And like to this day, I've gotten way better after living in Australia. I had to, but I still am like, they freak me out. I'm like, why am I freaked out about you? You just look a little ugly and creepy, but like, why does it make me scared? So anyway, tell me what you think.
Oh my gosh. Wait, first of all, did you like, because Australia, I feel like is the birthplace of spiders. Like, did you meet any of like the
so I didn't meet the scary ones that are like the size of your like arm because it's in the outback, but there was big ones that are like the size of your hand, like crawling on the ceiling sometimes, and that was scary. But honestly, overall, I did not see that many spiders there. Thank gosh.
Okay, well that's, oh my gosh, I screamed. But yeah, no, I honestly have had like this really standard fear of spiders that most humans honestly have, which is such an odd thing because like, what is it about them in relationship to other bugs that just makes them so like more, like there's just something about spiders, but I've really come into a space where like, if I see them in my home, I don't kill them. Like I do everything that I can to just remove them. And like, upon being more intentional with that, I've like grown a weird kind of fondness for them, but they've been showing up recently a lot. Like I'll find like them on my altar. They've been showing up in parks a lot. And then like 2 days ago, I was about to put on my shoe and there was a huge spider in my shoe. And I was like, okay, girl, I was like, I get it. They're loud. And when it comes to symbolism, spiders, I mean, they symbolize so much, particularly sort of like creation, right? And manifestation, and knowing that we have the innate power to create and write and form just through our energy, through our dialogue, but also like our innate talent and ability, right? Like the webs that they put together and stuff. But also they represent, because of their bodies are sort of like the shape of 8, which is like infinity, they represent the cycle of death and rebirth and how they're just sort of one, which is really, really, really large for me right now, because I feel like a big part of my identity is kind of dying, and through that death a large new part of my identity is being born. And so yeah, it's you just have to pay attention and kind of like connect the dots a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. There's always so many signs like constantly, and it's like sometimes.
Do you have any animals been coming up for you though, like, or
recently?
Yeah. Or just in life, like has there been any animal that's really carried you through?
There hasn't been like a certain animal. I'm trying to think recently what's been showing up. I mean, butterflies always. I think that's been the thing I've been seeing the most this past like few weeks. There's so many butterflies around, so that's been nice.
Oh, I anytime, because I'll go through my phases with butterflies, but they're one of my favorite phases because like there's just something so ethereal and beautiful about like something that represents like just transformation really, and letting yourself be free and be beautiful, you know? So go off. We love that for you. Free.
Yes. And I love that about spiders too, birth and death. It's like it's such a key element of life that we're not facing. And I actually like I have a few episodes coming out about talking about death a lot. Like, you know, it's a part of life that we are so avoidant of, and our society does not help us like come to terms with it. And it's not just death of humans, it's like you're saying death of parts of yourself, like grieving old parts of yourself, grieving relationships that ended. Like death is such an expansive term that we kind of just put it into this like scary box of losing someone, but it's actually so much grander than that.
Oh my God, you were speaking my language, especially because like upon me needing to sort of like invite spiders into my world, I've kind of had to like face a fear, right? Which I think is a large part of their symbolism, right? It's like we are so known and conditioned to be like this like thing. And if you just like face us and build intimacy with us, you'll find that like there's something actually really sweet and beautiful about the wisdom you can take from us. And I think they've also sort of brought to the center my relationship with fear and the fear that I have of death fully. And like, I realize that I have such a large fear of death for many reasons, but ultimately I think the first one is because we're not allowed to create intimacy with it. Like it's supposed to be this thing that we never look at and we don't talk about. And I read a quote that really has like, I've anchored so much of my truth in, which is just like the person that has the most like intimacy with death, like lives the most freely and the most intentionally, right? Because of this idea that like, if you understand how precious our time here is, you are so much more aware and present with it. So yeah, I think cultivating a healthy relationship with death and like how you see it on a physical sense, but also like on a symbolic sense, like letting attachments to like narratives and versions of yourself actually die so that you can meet whatever is born from that is so important. So I'm glad that you're talking about that because girl,
wow,
it's big.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow, I love everything you said. And I remember I was in Australia and my friend sent me a book called Tuesdays with Maury. Have you read it?
Mm-hmm. No.
Okay. Must read for everyone. It's a pretty quick read, and it's about I can't remember what he has, ALS. I think the grandpa gets ALS, and it's basically a story of like how he accepts death and like how he knows he's dying, and he like embraces it and teaches his family to embrace it. And it's this beautiful journey. And like I've experienced a lot of deaths by people close to me, and deaths by suicide, and deaths by plane crash, and like crazy things. And the more that I've leaned into it, and like that's why I live so fully. Like everyone in my life knows, like I'm doing it. Whatever I want to do, I'm going to go do it. And it's because like I've really come to terms with death and really accepted it, and I'm not avoiding it anymore. Like I know it's here, and it doesn't mean I'm like happy about it. Like doesn't mean I'm just like, oh yeah, let's die, you know.
Dying rocks. Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, it's a part of life, and like things are going to die, people are going to die. And the more I stopped fearing, like I used to literally anytime I saw a graveyard, I would turn my head. I would like be so afraid of cemeteries.
Yeah.
Like, I avoided looking at them. Like they spooked me out. But now I'm just like, sometimes they're really beautiful spaces, and yeah, it's a whole thing. But I'm like, and I've even written my will out once, and that was or eulogy, I think it's called. I remember we had to do that for studying abroad. It was in our thing, and it was like, you guys need to do it just in case. Like it was this big thing, and I was like, absolutely not. Everyone was like, we're not doing that. And then I kept hearing about it in some spiritual practices, like write out your own eulogy, and I was like, that's so scary. But then it's like once you do, it's like, wait, what do I want to be known for? Like what impact do I want to create? Like, you know, and just like, once you start leaning into it, it unfolds so much.
And that's so, I think even just that concept, right, of like doing an act of like that solidifies dying, brings so much awareness to how you want to live, is like the largest part of, I think, a spider's nectar in terms of like symbolism, because it like the whole idea you're supposed to walk away with, especially with like the fact that they're shaped like infinity, is this idea that like death is rebirth and rebirthing is death, and like life and death are essentially the same exact thing. So, oh my gosh. I think I'm excited to listen to your podcast episode about it, because I think I need to just get a bit more comfortable with it. I will say, like, even just like me envisioning writing a eulogy, I'm like, oh girl, no. But I will say that I have a very healthy relationship with like death and like identity and self, because I feel like I watch a lot of people be so afraid of change and be really attached to like versions of themselves or even like plans that they've made for themselves. And I'm so okay with like knowing that who I was, I feel like I die and am reborn every night, honestly. Like I feel like I wake up every single day a different person with different desires, and like I'm okay with moving with that fluidity instead of like, you know, being so attached to who I've like built a comfort zone in being. So yeah, I don't know. I think death shows up in a lot of different ways in life. And yeah, that kind of I'm comfortable with, but I need to see ourselves as vessels a bit more, because I'm always like, oh girl, no.
And that's okay to like this journey. It's been a journey for me, you know, and I'm still
Yeah,
like,
of course.
obviously I'm not like completely accepted
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
but,
Totally.
I just think like you said, death and birth are on the same coin, just like love and fear and love and grief. And it's like the
Yes.
deeper you want to love, the deeper you're gonna have to grieve. Like the deeper you open that door to unconditional love, like the more grief you have to feel. And it's just
Isn't
like
that something?
the dualities of life are so confusing. It's like, how can I hold these two extremes at once? And that's what I find my life is like, building that container to expand holding these things.
Yes. No, that's literally it. I think that's the secret, honestly, to like self-liberation, especially because like there's so many ways that we can look at emotion in a sense of duality. And like, I don't know, there's such a broad spectrum of things that you can feel. And it's often pains me when I see people like really be obsessed with what just maybe with happiness, right? Like their sole mission in life is to experience happiness on a consistent basis. And I'm just sitting here like, that is one polar end that is such an extreme of like a wide spectrum of emotion that like you can move through and dance with. And like that shows up in a lot of ways. I think right now a large lesson in my life, which I think spiders have also been teaching me a little bit. I mean, love that I just keep coming back to them, honestly. But like I feel like there's maybe a one-dimensional view that people have of me, right? That I'm like this being of love and light. And I find that almost expecting, or rather like living life in alignment with how people expect me to be, has made me demonize parts of myself that are dirty and like different and morbid. And like I like, you know, I like a lot of horror movies, and I like there's a lot of parts of me that are selfish and like easily irritable, and I feel like I'm always trying to like fix and heal and conceal those parts of me. And so coming into a space where I know that like so many extremes can exist at once, and there's a large part of my shadow that I'm super, super into, that will fuel the parts of me that are light, and like not seeing them as separate is like a large thing right now. So yeah, I feel like that goes in alignment with what you were saying for sure.
Wow, that's just been a huge thing. Like I've noticed throughout my life, but especially this past month is like,
Yeah.
both you and I are these light beings that people can come to, and
Yes.
you know, like we know how to cultivate that energy very well, and
Yeah,
tap into it. But then also like the expectations that they have of us, and like I remember the first time this hit me. Yeah, it was like near my yoga training or something else, and I like couldn't be happy for other people, and I like couldn't be happy and have it together, and then like people were like, well, what's, you know, like, and I not maintaining that role was just like earth shattering to me. I'm like, fuck, like I'm always this person. How am I supposed to be all these other things? But really, I am so diverse. I get frustrated all the time too. Like,
yes.
I there's so many parts of me too. So yeah,
I can be a bitch, and I'm like, I need to be okay with knowing that like I can be a bitch, you know? Like
I'm like, that was mean. I'm like, shit. Whoa, but yeah, so like it's in there, and it's so normal. And it's like, when's the last time you got really raw with yourself and like got really truthful with like all parts of you, because we're human and we are diverse.
oh, totally. And like recognizing the fact that like one part can't really exist without that other part. Like I feel like I need to know who I am within like my bitchiness in order to like show up as the person that I am when I'm holding space and when I'm cultivating it, because they kind of need each other for rest. And even like a large conversation I've been having recently, which, oh my God, yeah, like I was totally on some plant medicine and I like saw this huge spider in a park and I was like talking to it because I fully thought it was my grandmother. I honestly still think it was, but like it's fine. The point is that like a large thing that was coming up was I was feeling really overwhelmed by what I assumed was life asking of me to like kind of kill off my inner child a little bit. Like I felt like I was kind of being forced to grow up in a lot of ways. And especially going through this pandemic, like there's such a weight that we probably don't even any longer realize we've been carrying. That like I think my inner child just wanted to put down so badly. And so I was sitting there realizing like in me stepping into my adulthood, there's so much of my inner child that I have to let go of, and I don't want to. And like the nectar that I was taking from that moment was realizing that like it's not about killing off your inner child, but rather like integrating who that is into your adulthood and like redefining what adulthood means to you, and knowing that like in order to step into that space of responsibility, you need to help the inner child in order to really be able to give your inner child what she needs or they need or whatever. Like you need to also, you know, be in that space of responsibility with self. So like in summation to that convoluted thing was just that there's so many ways in which one parts of you needs that polar opposite part in order to exist. And so it's all about finding the balance in the middle. Definitely.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. That must have been a
Yeah.
earth-shattering thing to be like, my inner child needs to die. You're like, no way, that's true. That's not truth.
Especially because I'm such a kid. Like if you know anything about me, you know that like sacral chakra healing and inner child healing are like me. Like it's just all about sensuality and play. And like I was being given so many responsibilities, so many like sobering truths to look at. And I was like, how can I continue life as a 14-year-old if it's asking of me to be like really 25 right now? And yeah, and it's recognizing the fact that like what I've done is I've sort of taken keywords from what I feel embody my childhood, which was this like independence and imagination and adventure, and like making sure that within my adulthood those are at the forefront and anchored, you know. And even if I manifest them now within like 25-year-old context, right? So like imagination may not look like what it looked like when I was a kid, but I'm still, you know, being imaginative. Just knowing that I'm keeping that energy alive is important for sure.
I think that's huge. And I hear it all
Yeah.
the time. Like I'm hearing it more and more about people taking themselves so seriously. And it's like, that's not serving them, you know? It's like, that's not it. And
No.
I used to too, actually. Like I feel like as a kid I was serious. I didn't get to experience the playfulness because I
Right.
was a, what do you call it, personified adult or personified child, whatever, the thing where you have to like be an adult as a child, being like
Yeah.
and like raise yourself. And you know, I had to grow up so
Right.
fast. And so I remember too, like people like being silly, and I would be like, that's not funny. And they're like, well, yeah, but like, you know, just laugh at it. Like,
Aren't you a Capricorn too?
Yeah.
I could see that very easily.
And so I used to just like take life so serious. I'm like, that didn't make me laugh. And they're like, well, you know, and people were just like, wait, like this is awkward now. And I just took life so serious, and I was like, this isn't fun. Like, why am I not just like making fun of everything? And healing too. Like, if you make healing like this super serious structured journey, like that isn't it either. And like just bringing light and playfulness, I find, is the best. And you are right. Like I have been kind of disconnected from that grounding structured energy, and I'm now tapping back into it, and I'm like, ooh, this feels so good. Like
Yes.
having the combination of the two, because like I don't have to lose that playful energy, but like having structure and some responsibilities are good.
Yes.
I love to have no responsibilities, but
I know. Oh my God. I know that would be the most ideal if I could just be like a koala that just like lives in a tree. But I realized, yeah, it's the integration. So for me, it looks like I have a schedule. Like I have like a daily schedule, like at the time that I wake up and how long I meditate and when I work. But like I will schedule in play. Like I'm like from 4 to 6. You're not doing anything. And when that time arrives, your body will let you know what she wants to do. Maybe she wants to go outside and run around or like color. I literally have like all these color pencils like right next to me. Yeah. So just like making sure that like within this like structured adulthood I'm living in, that like I'm infusing it with light and play.
And I think there's nothing wrong with that. Like a lot of us need to do that, like schedule in mind, but schedule and play. And it's like, let's do that, you know, like let's actually make that part of our schedule, make that part of our routines. And
I know. That was when I was doing a lot of inner child healing, like ladybugs and dragonflies were like the most symbolic animals that were showing up a lot. So like for anyone listening, if any of them are coming up for you, um, yeah, you gotta hold that inner child's hand, darling. She needs some time, some space.
yes, and I want to touch on this earlier too, how we were talking about like everyone's so scared of spiders, and it's like this conditional fear because all fear is taught to us, you know. And so it's like,
Yes.
why is that being passed down? And I'll see kids, and you know, and I'm like, when I see a kid that's afraid of spiders, I'm like, is, you know, and then I'll meet their parents because I babysit, and I'm like, oh, okay, the mom's terrified of spiders, she passed that on. Or like, or I see kids that are playing in the dirt and playing with worms, playing with bugs, and it's like their parents didn't teach them to be afraid of those things. And so yeah, it's really interesting how we have chosen spiders to be afraid of. And I wonder what it is. Like, I'm not afraid of being hurt by spiders. Like, that's not it. Like, it's, yeah. So it's super weird.
I know. That is, I love that you brought that up because I'm so fascinated with conditioned fear, genuinely, especially because like when you really step outside of it and look at it, like butterflies. I mean, yeah, spiders are arachnids, but like butterflies and spiders are both bugs. They're both bugs, and one we glorify and like have made. Oh, it's so. I'm realizing I'm saying this, and like my pen jar literally has like a spider on it, which I have even.
I
Some of
was
the legs broke
looking
off
at
the
that.
spider. I'm like, okay, girl. But yeah, so like they're both bugs, but because we've deemed one as beautiful and one as scary, we've just kind of gone with that narrative. But when we break it down, it's like up close. Like if you really look at a butterfly, like that's just scary. And if you look at like a spider, you can see how intricate they're built and see the beauty in them as well. Like it's just all about sort of like really finding the source of what it is that you fear and questioning that and questioning that and questioning that, right? Like go to the root of why it is that you feel the way you feel about certain things and feel empowered enough to like redefine. I feel like that's been a really large thing in my life. I feel like I've done a lot of work in my journey as far as like unlearning,
Mhm.
which I feel like healing is really just consistently unlearning fun. But like I'm kind of at the point now where I get to redefine. Like I had to actively unlearn what it meant to be successful by like society's terms. And now I'm redefining what it means for me. And so yeah, I'm redefining my fears too. I'm not choosing to fear um spiders. I had like a spider bite the other day and I was like, okay, so at some point there was a spider on my body and I'm accepting that because it is what it is, you know, like there are probably ants on my body too, you know, like just coming back to the power that you have when it comes to like I get to choose what I'm scared of and I can choose to not be scared of anything, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yes, yes, yes. And that made me sad when you were saying that, like thinking about how, you know, like we're scared of the ugly thing. And like even in
yes,
beauty standards, even in with race, like we're taught like
yes,
what the fuck is racism? Like, oh, it makes me so like, who
it's
decided
not real, it's not real, it's taught, it's
all
so
these
upsetting.
illusions, like such
Yeah,
awful illusions, and it's really
yeah,
important to shatter them and to like take a look at them.
yeah. Why are spiders ugly?
Yeah.
Like, well, why? Because they have a lot of legs. I mean, I get it. Like, my body responds as well. Because I'm like, oh, okay, like alien-like, but why?
Yeah, but like, yeah, you look at some moths and stuff too. Like moths are technically kind of butterflies and they're fucking creepy looking. So yeah,
Yes.
it's weird.
Oh my God, moths were very symbolic. In my journey as well. I have to like talk about all the animal symbolism, but like they're very drawn to light. So if moths come up for you, it's important to recognize the ways in which you maybe are feeling drained, which has shown up symbolically in my life as well. But like, yeah, they're so attracted to light that sometimes you can sort of be the light that moths are attracting. And by moths, it could be, you know, people who are, when you're so accessible, are really used to like, you know, sort of feeding off of your light and recognizing when you need to shut that light off and recalibrate and rejuvenate and when it's time to turn it back on. So yeah, just bringing up moths. That's another symbolic
Whoa.
animal.
That's a big one. Let's talk
Yeah.
more. Tell us all the more symbolisms. So if people are receiving different animals or bugs in their life, what does it mean? The ones you
Oh
know.
my gosh, all the buggaroos. And of course, everything means what you decided to mean. There's also so many different forms of symbolism. I feel like, and this is the conversation that's come up for me talking about animal symbolism, which is just like the universe is so vast, so generous, so large, but ultimately so responsive. And the more that you set intention and speak out loud what it is that you need, the more that you're going to get that form of communication, whether it's through like repeating numbers, through colors, through random signs and synchronicities, lyrics that stand out in songs, and of course, animals. So, like, if you're in a space in life where you're like, damn, I haven't really felt, like I've noticed, like, why aren't you noticing? What is it that you're distracted by? And why aren't you aware? Why aren't you, communicating with this universe that you were born from and bred from? So yeah, so everything kind of means whatever makes sense for you individually, for sure. But for me, for example, hawks, I went through a period where like hawks were very, very symbolic for me. They were showing up a lot, which is weird because we don't really have a lot of those in Florida. So the fact that I was seeing them, I was like, okay, girl. But they are animals that can see both up close and aerial perspectives equally well, like equally sharply. So they embody this idea of perspective and not only seeing things up close and the details of them, but seeing the larger picture and like being, which I think is huge, like being empowered by the fact that like the perspective that you choose is the experience that you have of the thing. And so yeah, so like that's another animal, but just pay attention, honestly, pay attention to the numbers, the signs, all of it. Just be awake.
I think that's, yeah, so true. And as with everything, like you said, like you do get to choose on meetings, and yes, you can Google it and see what comes
Yes.
up and see if it resonates, or if you have an oracle deck that animals, like see if that feels good. And yes, there's like generalized things, but you
Yeah.
can also, like you were saying, like ask. Like I was just talking to my therapist about this. Ask for signs. Like say you're deciding
Yeah.
something, be like universe, God, source, whatever you believe in. Say, give me a sign of a butterfly, give me a sign of a flower, give me a sign of whatever, like by today, by this week, and see what comes, and
Yes.
you can ask for like, give me some numbers, or it's like you're what I've been learning is like your guides, your whatever, you know people, whoever you believe in,
Yes.
they don't cross boundaries, so you have to ask them to enter your life. You have to ask for those signs to come in, because
Yeah.
they're really respectful in that way. And so,
Yes.
but they're always wanting to help you and always want to support you, and they're always there with unconditional love. So it's like just lean on it.
Always. You just have to ask. Thank you for bringing that up, because that is important to recognize. Like there is a boundary that's being respected, and it's important to not only feel like liberated enough to ask, but like feel like you're even deserving of being receptive of an answer. I feel like a lot of periods in my life, like I would ask, but it was coming from almost a source of like, I already wasn't expecting it. Like, I was like, I'm going to ask because like, of course, like that's what everyone says to do. But like, this stuff never happens for me, or like, it's not actually going to show up. And like, that's an energy that you're feeling it with. So like, obviously it's not. But when you step into a period of like, no, I am not separate from earth. I'm not separate from divinity. I am divinity. And so me communicating with the universe is ultimately me communicating with myself, and opening yourself up to that truth. It's insane how quickly, like for me, pennies are super symbolic. So I'm like, hey, angels, I'm gonna need some pennies because I'm going through it. Like I will just find like these face up pennies in random walks of life, and I'm like, shout out.
Ah, it's so beautiful. And this is again incorporating that, like this is how the journey started for me too, because I was like, I
Yes.
was very in my mask, and I was like, I don't believe in this. Like, no, like this ain't real. And having that energy, but then it's like, wait, when I embodied my inner child and allowed that imagination to come about, it's like, what if? What if this was real? What if I could get some signs? Like, what if? And then when you open that door of possibility, that's when it floods in. And like you said, it's just you, like it is just you communicating, and it's like your inner knowing, your inner wisdom. And when you
Yes.
open up that door, like some people are like, angel numbers aren't real. And I'm like, well, it's more fun. It's way more fun to like believe that they're real than to not believe. Like you get to choose, like, fuck it. What if it isn't real? But like, then you have nothing. Like every time I see an angel number, it gets me excited and happy, and like, it fills me up. Whereas if I want to believe in anything, and it's just like, it's that extra layer of,
We're gonna have the same exact experience, but we're gonna feel differently in relationship to like what perspective we choose. So like a person could also be seeing those numbers and not see any meaning to them, and like what a muted, mundane, gray life that is, as opposed to like having that same experience but choosing to derive joy from it and choosing to derive connection from it, ultimately shifts your vibration and invites in more of that feeling. So it's just like, it's in your best interest to choose to believe, really. Like it's yeah, totally. Which
No,
is
like,
so funny, like, because of course, like as a Capricorn, I'm sure you were in a space where you were like, girl, that's not like, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's so beautiful to see that.
oh yeah, it was definitely took me a while, but like weird, yeah, you just said, and I was just saying, it's like you get
Yeah.
to choose your perspective, and the more you choose, like the more I experience it, and it's like there's no bad side effects of, of believing in something greater than yourself, and
You have a specific, like, is there some way that you communicate with the universe that's very specific to you? Like, is there a specific flower or like a specific number that you get?
I get numbers I see angel numbers like 30 times a day, but I've recently been seeing a lot of 222s and 444s, and then 333 is my favorite number.
I love
I don't
333.
know what any of them mean in particular, but I see them a lot.
Yeah, there's only a few. Like I know 555 is change. 888 is money and
Yeah.
abundance.
Yeah.
We love that. 999 is like endings, but um that's iconic. I know I remember like watching a really scary movie when I was a kid, and like it was about some like owl that I think was like secretly like a demon or something. I don't know, but like the owl would show up at the person's window every night at 333. And so I remember for so long, like, and I watched that when I was like maybe 11. So like for so long, I thought like angel numbers were scary, or like at least 333 was so scary. So it's so cool to like be in a space where I'm like, oh no, I'm completely alchemizing this belief, and like, you know.
And 666, like that's actually not a bad number either.
No. And I would see 666 sometimes and be like, is this an omen? And if anything, it's a number to like bring you back to awareness of like, hey, how are you thinking? Like, has your inner dialogue shifted? Like, you know, kind of come back to self, which I think is such an important reminder. It's all about that duality and like, you know, living within, you know, integrating shadow and light for sure.
Yes, yes.
Green.
And I know you do reading, so talk about that.
Oh my God.
It's a huge topic. But just I want to wrap up with you and your readings because I haven't gotten one, which I will, but yeah.
Oh wait, like doing you mean astrology readings?
Yes.
Girl, I thought you meant like, what am I reading? And I
Oh.
was gonna be like, I'm reading this book. Okay, yes, side
But
note.
also, yes, sorry, what are you reading? I love books. I'm reading this crazy book. It's so good.
Ooh, Enchanted Love. Oh, I haven't heard of it. Does she have a deck though? I feel like I recognize that like font. Does she
Is
do
that the same
art?
deck? No, I don't know. Maybe it's called The Mystical Power of Intimate Relationships, and it is mind blowing. It's all about like how romance. It's just so good. So that's what I'm reading.
Oh,
What are you
thank you.
reading?
No, I'm totally gonna read. Okay, well, mine is called Earth, the Pleiadian Keys to the Living Library. And like, I just want you to look how crazy this cover is.
Oh.
Essentially, the author like channeled Pleiadian beings, which are like an alien like, sect, and like delivered all of their messages. It sounds insane, but it's probably been the most liberating book I've ever read because, in short, aliens are dope and are trying to help humanity. Anyway, though, as far as astrology readings go, yes, I am an astrologer. So yeah, I've been doing a ton of readings recently too. I'm a little bit burnt out, actually, low key. I think it's because this Lionsgate energy that we just went through was such a period of like, how have I been standing in my own power, and how am I ready to like really recommit to living in my truth, basically. So a lot of people have been coming to me for it, and I'm like super excited because I'm like, listen, this is the time, honey. This is the time to be your most authentic and loud self. But yeah, I do astrology readings, and I think ultimately what's different about my readings specifically is that I do my best to infuse empowerment through them. Like we look at purpose and we look at strength and we look at like, how can I live um in alignment with my strength. So yeah, if anyone ever wanted to book a one-on-one, they could do that.
Yes, I'm sure they're so magical. So fun. And how did you learn? Is it just self-taught or
Yeah,
done?
well, I've been interested in astrology for like as early as I can remember, like genuinely since I was a kid. And I think within the past like 5 years, I took it much more seriously because I realized so many people were coming to me already. So I was like, maybe I should actually provide structure for this like thing that I have an interest in. So I went to it was virtual, but I did Oak Astrology School, and I really learned like the fundamentals and the tools behind it, but also not losing like my essence. Like I think there's a way that I approach astrology that's like, you know, specific and unique that I don't want to lose through like structure. But yeah, I just think it's such a beautiful way to further connect yourself to the universe. I think the way that, we build relationship with um just what's outside and what's larger than us can make us feel, I don't know, more empowered and more whole. So yeah, it's just a beautiful thing. And I love that you're Capricorn. I just love Capricorn women, honestly, because I think that like they're, and obviously of course we're all like individual charts, so like not all Capricorn women are the same, of course, but like the way that earth sign women in particular build such a healthy relationship with their masculinity. Like there's other signs that I feel, for example, Cancer, which is the polar opposite of Capricorn. Cancer is almost like fear masculinity and have an uncomfortable relationship with like what it means to be in that state. And Capricorns harness that in such a beautiful way that it's so inspiring to me.
Like my camping chart.
Yes, no, but like actually.
Yeah. And what are your other signs? What's your moon and your rising? I know you're Aquarius, but right.
Yeah, so I'm an Aquarius sun. I'm a Leo moon. So I was born on a full moon because I'm like polar opposite ones. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. And then I'm a Sagittarius rising, which is why I'm like so like loud and excited to live life. What are yours?
I'm a Gemini moon, so my mind is all over the place.
Yes.
And I'm a Taurus rising.
Oh, I was assuming that you were a Taurus moon because of what Taurus energy you have. So Taurus rising makes so much sense. Gemini moon is iconic. I love that for you. Oh my God. I think, you know what? Jim Carrey has that exact chart.
Wow.
Oh, that's a fun person to emulate.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I'll have to look more into him. Maybe watch a movie tonight or something.
Yes. Oh my God, no, he's an icon.
What about the Taurus do you see in me?
Oh my God. I think outside of the fact that you're literally just like an earth goddess, like there's something about Tauruses, that are so they have such an intimacy with like their senses. Like they like to smell good things. They like to be in comfortable spaces. Like they really like to nourish all of their senses. And also they harness sensuality. So they're ruled by the planet Venus alongside Libra, which is like the planet of femininity, which is why I think you have that duality in terms of like standing in your masculinity and standing in your femininity, because it's something that's like in your skin. So it makes so much sense why you're a Taurus rising, because it's like the first thing that you see is like this element of sensuality, which is really, really, really dope. So you're Venusian led. Go off. You own that. Girl, you know what? I'm just going to give you a reading at some point. Like, let's set it up, because like being Venusian led, my mom has Venus in her first house too. So like there's just this element of like, you can control through your charm, honey.
Yeah, I definitely
can. It's
totally. So funny. And speaking of parents, like,
yes,
have you noticed that you've ever dated people that have the like same signs as your parents?
Oh my God. Fortunately and like unfortunately.
Yeah.
Totally. Like I realized, and I think a lot of it stemmed from like my unhealed dad stuff came through in the ways that like I would date dudes a lot that resembled and like emulated his like innate distance. But I realize now, coming into like healing with all the different parts of myself and all the different parts of like parent stuff, what I look for like men and in women is like kind of the energy that my mom embodies a little bit of. Like she's very grounded. She's a Virgo, and like there's something about her that's really stable, and I think I kind of need that in a partner because I'm so neurotic. So yeah, you guys are my type. How about you?
That's amazing. Yeah, my mom's a Gemini.
Dope.
I don't think I've ever dated a Gemini, but I've never done my mom's chart. I've never done either of my parents' charts, but my dad's a Scorpio, and I've definitely dabbled in that. So.
Oh wow, that's intense.
Yeah.
I haven't dated either of those signs, and nor do I feel like I have interest in it.
Yeah. I mean, I actually don't. What is the technical like match for Capricorn? Do you know? I mean, I know.
I mean, the thing is, it's so based on charts,
well,
but like
I don't like.
Yeah, but I feel like because there's something that is so grounded and centered about Capricorns, typically what would like balance out that energy is someone who is more explorative and like will bring out that exploration from within you. Even though you have a Gemini moon, so you're probably already like explorative enough, but yeah, there's just like there's a duality. My ex was a Capricorn, but like sometimes I was like, you're just a boulder, like move. You know?
That's why I feel like I usually don't resonate with Capricorns, but that's why it's like you said, like your chart is everyone's so different. There's so many parts to your chart, and
your charts and your houses too. Like if you have something in your first house, that's going to be so much more pronounced than even your sun sign. So yeah, totally.
it's yeah, that's cool. Okay, well, thank you so much, and definitely get a reading done by her. What else are you offering?
Thank you. Yeah, we host conversation parties virtually and in person if you're in South Florida. I do one-on-one readings and spiritual counseling sessions if you're into that. I also have a YouTube. I don't know, girl, I'm all over it. Just follow me and you'll figure it out. I do a lot of stuff. I'm tired, honestly.
Good. No, you're good. You got so much going on. So definitely check out her page. I'll put it in the bio and get yourself some little doses of Jazmin.
Yes. I also have a color healing line if you want to buy a tea. But otherwise, just honestly, thank you, Lexi, because anytime I do anything with you, I feel so at home.
Yes, me too. I'm so excited. Well, thanks again. And we hope you notice the symbols in your life.
Yes.